All right, let's attempt to do this live on a Friday edition of Cleveland Browns Daily. I am merely Beau. He is the great Z. The boys are back together. How you doing, pal?
I'm doing great, and it's good to be back, in the Cross Country Mortgage campus. I had a wonderful time, believe you me, in Indianapolis. It was great, as I see a tremendous Barstool Sports crew neck sweater on our good friend Corey Kinder walking around the office here today. But it's just good to be back in the mix in the office and kind of feel some of that energy. Obviously, a lot of the football people still in Indy, so much work still to be done there. But I thought it was a very valuable trip down there. I thought we learned a lot.
Sure.
I thought we got to see a little bit of a show last night. I had made it home, to see the show, Mary Poppins, by the at the middle school there, and it was just a tremendous performance. My daughter Arden, in the role of Von Hustler, delivered her lines with a panache that made her old man proud. So it was that was fun, and then got home and I had an opportunity to throw on. That was the one benefit of the primetime drills, is I was able to come home, get myself some Thai food, and sit down and watch that. And I thought that, Garrett Wilson jumped off of the screen to me. I just thought that he looked like
– don't say.
He looked like the best receiver out there. I think Treylon Burks, I think he ran a 4.5. I don't care about that. Like, I've watched enough of his highlights running away from kids at Alabama that his play speed is probably exactly what his, timed speed is. So I'm not concerned about that. But I think when you look at that guy's body – you say to yourself, Maroon, this guy, it looks ridiculous. So I thought it was fun. It was fun to watch, and I'll tell you what, I don't know if he has any idea really where it's going, because there was a lot of wild misses, but Malik Willis has an absolute rocket attached to his body.
I was worried that he was going to end up in Pittsburgh, but I think now he's going to be long gone by the time they pick.
Because
someone's going to pick him in the top 10,
which is
by the time it's all said and done.
The part of that is not insane to me, right? I understand it's the most important position. It's going to be overdrafted, all of that. But what he did that was so impressive was show that he could throw the ball a long way. That has nothing to do with playing the position of quarterback in the National Football League. Zero.
No.
But it sure was fun to watch, and it was impressive. A lot of oohs and ahs. But to your point, going into that workout, not a single person at the combine thought any of these quarterbacks were that great. And that they're saying everybody's talking about Trubisky and Mariota. Senior swag today, rocking some ones in the original red, white, and black that are just spectacular.
Some J1s?
That's right. High tops.
Jeez, high tops, too. It's a bold move to pull out a high top, I think.
Stunning.
But he can pull it. He's a bold man.
Oh, he's a bold man, Cotton. But the notion that, I got to talk with Greg Cosell, who I couldn't love anymore. I'm pretty sure that's on today's program as well, 2:30. So go ahead and grab your pen and pencil. He's not, he thought Malik Willis is a guy that maybe, sure, but he said there's nothing about his game that indicates to me that he is ready to play at the pro level, but he's got some tools, right? He's incredibly fast, and he's got an absolute cannon. And so those skills can make up for not playing quarterback in the traditional sense of, being well-versed or adept at, reading defenses, throwing accurately, those kind of things, because he's going to be able to make stuff out of nothing. But I'm happy to see him not go in our division. Because he is. You look at him, great kid, too, a tremendous human being.
Right.
Looks.
We saw him feeding giving the to the homeless people in downtown Indy at the combine. That was captured. We found that,
And he looks. I mean, the guy looks phenomenal. Guy looks like, I'd like that.
Look, it's capitalism, buddy. It's just supply and demand.
That's right.
I mean, it's just supply and demand. There's too much demand for the supply to be met. The supply can't meet it. So what happens is you're going to find people talking themselves into guys. I mean, that's going to happen at quarterback. It's going to happen around the league at quarterback. And I think that's the headline coming out of the combine as we sit here on a Friday, is that it's really unlikely that any of these big-time quarterbacks that you thought would move. And it's incredibly complicated with Deshaun Watson. Watson is not a simple trade. There is a lot to it. We were talking with Ben Albright about maybe the Broncos being in on Watson, and he was like, no, I mean, he would have to be completely cleared. Like, if that's going to be the standard of completely cleared of criminal or, and again, right now no criminal charges, but or the civil charges, if that's the case, How could anybody trade for Deshaun Watson?
Yep.
So you went into an offseason thinking maybe Rodgers, maybe Wilson, maybe Brady goes to the Niners, and maybe and then Deshaun Watson would be moved before the league year started here in a couple of weeks. And now the way I sit here on a Friday after the Combine, Rodgers is going to be a Packer. Wilson's going to be a Seahawk. Brady's a little bit of a wild card still, but they were pretty firm that they're not moving off of him. And Watson's really, really complicated.
Yep.
It's not easy. So then, oh, and by the way, Jimmy Garoppolo, who's always been viewed as the next guy on the list, he had shoulder surgery. So he's complicated. So this is how Malik Willis ends up going in the top 10. It's how Kenny Pickett, despite small hands, is also probably going to go in the first round. Matt Corral could. Sam Howell could. You could have 4 of these guys go because there's going to be teams that have to address it, and they have to find some way to do it, and they're going to talk themselves into these quarterbacks.
Because you're right. That's the position of the most importance in the National Football League. And that's why Kirk Cousins and Derek Carr and, names like that people had bandied about moving are not going to be let go by their teams because who are they going to get to replace them?
They're going nowhere.
They're going nowhere exactly for that reason. And so that, to me, says, all really you need to know about the situation at that position in the National Football League, the importance of it, the reason why people are hesitant to necessarily, go ahead and divest themselves of quarterbacks who, while maybe they are not the greatest, that they are the best option for that franchise at that time. And all these names we've talked about have taken their teams to the playoffs.
Yeah.
Maybe they're not good enough to win a Super Bowl, or maybe they are under the right situation, but all you can do is dance with what brung you at this point. And I think that's kind of the sentiment coming out of the Combine is you're not getting the answer in this draft class. Like there's nobody, and now somebody may go, as you mentioned, may go early. Malik Willis, it feels like could, had a lot of buzz, but I've never understood why these workouts throwing on air would generate buzz and why anybody would be surprised that he has a cannon. I mean, I thought that was something that was pretty well known at this point.
I don't think it's about surprise. I just think it's like, hey, we're all selling things here, right? And NFL Network and ESPN.com, they're in the business of selling the NFL draft and selling hope. And NFL teams are in the business of selling hope. And if you can sell the hope of Malik Willis, righting your wrongs, being the answer at quarterback, the notion, we heard this week, but, the notion that he's like Josh Allen is pretty wild to wrap your head around, like people throwing Josh Allen around willy-nilly, like he's an MVP candidate.
That's right.
In his 3rd year in the league. Like that's heady stuff to be thrown around there. But that's what you can talk yourself into at the Combine, right? You can talk yourself into that. Hey, we'll be the ones to unlock all of this potential. So I think that's where that stuff all comes from, and it kind of stinks because I was hopeful that we would get some real quarterback movement, and shake up this league a little bit. But it doesn't seem like that's going to happen. I think that's my number one takeaway from the week. That's it.
Agreed. That was it. I think the other takeaway from the week is that, people absolutely love this receiver class, and not just the top of it, but, when you get into the kid Bell, when you get into Watson from North Dakota State, who I thought looked great. What did he run, a 4.3 at 6'4"? Well,
first of all, everyone's running 4.1. I mean, we had a 4.21, a 4.26.
Well, they threw all those out.
4.2. No, I know.
Yeah.
But, like, what the hell was going on, man?
So
where it was like, and by the way, as a quick aside, I don't know that anything sums up social media more than this. So I'm at basketball practice for my oldest last night, some AAU practice, and I get a notification that at the same time, of course, texting me, that Chris Olave runs 4.26.
Yep.
And I'm thinking to myself, now I knew he would run faster than people thought, but that's a lot faster than people thought. I thought he'd be a 4.3 guy, low 4.4s. But 4.26 was, that's Deion Sanders. And I was thinking, geez, that's fast. And within a minute, and I'm certainly well aware of the severity of this, I got an alert that the Russians had bombed a nuclear plant. And I'm thinking, if anything sums up social media, that does right there. That's social media for you. That was my Thursday night was those two things bouncing back and forth. But Yeah, so they have like 9 guys run 4 sub-3 in the or 4 sub-4.4, and then they adjusted and got it back to the normal time. Which, the conspiracy theorist in me wonders, like, did that happen just to create a buzz?
So,
like, how are they so far off?
So they have a new timer. It's been Charlie Casserly for the NFL Network. Has been the stopwatch guy for years and years and years, and it's somebody new this year, and so they think that maybe that was
they were just gunning it,
and he was just off. By the way, I just got a spam call from the Netherlands.
Oh,
while we're on our FaceTimer, so that would be. I think maybe that's it, and that's the reason why it just ended up so different.
Aren't the Netherlands? So it's the Netherlands, it's Holland, and they're called the Dutch.
That's right.
Right?
Denmark.
Do I have all that right?
Because Denmark.
No, Denmark's a different city.
Denmark's country.
That's a different country. Right. Netherlands are a country, but then they're like in soccer they're called Holland, and then they're called the Dutch. Denmark are called the Danes.
The Danes, yeah.
It's a different country.
You're right.
But
yes.
the Netherlands, Holland, and the Dutch, that's all one group of human.
That's right. And they wear.
How do you have 3 different? What they wear orange for soccer,
even though their flag is red, white, and
Holland.
blue.
And they're red, white, and blue. The Netherlands flag's red, white, and blue. They're called the Netherlands, but it's Holland, and then the people are called Dutch.
That's right.
Let's get organized a little bit.
I like it, l'orange. But yeah, I've had a wonderful time in Amsterdam, as a matter of fact, as you could imagine.
I bet you have.
Yeah.
Knowing
the crazy part about that part of the world,
weaknesses.
though, is that it's all like a bunch of states, right? I mean, like you could be in Belgium,
right,
in an hour, then be in, with the Dutch.
Right, but I guess what I'm saying is you're not, if you're from Germany, you're German.
Right, but Dutch is the language.
Okay, but then why is it called the Netherlands? Why isn't it just called Dutch?
Dutch. It can't be Deutschland is the
Deutschland
Germans.
is Germany.
Maybe they have Dutchland. Just really confusing.
And then they got Holland. They
Holland.
refer to themselves as Holland.
Yeah.
It's confusing.
It is
Pick
confusing.
Pick
the
one.
Netherlands, and formerly Holland, is a country located in Western Europe with overseas territories in the Caribbean.
Yeah, I mean, I think Holland might have been the way to go. Maybe just stay Holland. Why did you change to the Netherlands?
Borders Germany to the east, Belgium to the south, and North Sea to the northwest. Sure. Yes, indeed.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah, makes sense. I don't know. One other thing I wanted to do. So your trip yesterday took a long time because you were in some sort of a car parade.
Yep.
Which was exciting.
Very.
And I know you're excited to be in that. I had my trip, and I told you that I was going to do this when I was leaving. So I would say that aside from New Orleans, Louisiana, and cities I've lived in, I've spent the most nights in my life in Indianapolis. I would say that's probably the answer. By the time
that's
you
probably
do Big Ten
fair.
championships and Super Bowls and combines and all of the things that take you to Indy, I think it's probably behind New Orleans. New Orleans is number 1 on my list. I think it's 2, other than cities I've lived in, for the most nights that I've stayed in one place. So I have driven past the exit to Knightstown, I would say roughly 42,000 times in my life. And it's a dreadful stretch of road. It's a dreadful stretch of road. I think we can all acknowledge that.
That part of 70 might be one of the worst stretches of freeway in the world.
I think in the
Certainly
world.
in the country.
I think, nay, universe. I think it's just awful. The idea it's 2-lane is just insane. I just don't understand it. It's incredibly frustrating, and I'm sure even more so by you because you had apparently some speed restrictions in the party you were with.
Yes.
So I had seen the exit to Hoosiers Gym a lot, and I've always been tempted. But usually you're going into Indy late at night. I'm going in at night. I'm just trying to get there, get to the hotel, or I'm trying to rush home, in some sort of hurry. And so I had made a deal with myself that I was going to stop at the Hoosiers Gym on the way back. So when I left Wednesday, I said, I'm just building this in, man. Like, this is what you're doing. You've been wanting to do it. And in the back of my head, I thought it'd be a cool place to take the boys. So I stopped. It was, I will say, my friend, a borderline religious experience.
I love it.
It's unchanged from the film. Unchanged. Other than a 3-point arc and widened keys versus the narrow key that they played with in the 50s. So when you walk in the doors, it looks like you're checking into a high school basketball game. So there's a trophy case with pictures. There's a stand to take your ticket, and you go either way around and get in. There were two older gentlemen working there. Nobody else was in the facility. So as soon as you walk onto the court, I mean, you're walking onto a movie set. I mean, you're walking into a basketball cathedral.
Yeah.
And it was stunning. It was stunning. I imagine and basketball has always been my favorite sport, and that is, I think the best basketball movie of all time, and one of my favorite movies ever. I suppose if you were a baseball fan and you got to play at Field of Dreams, that would have that type of feeling to it. Or if you're a big Star Wars guy and you get to walk into the Millennium Falcon,
yeah, sure,
that would have, that type of feeling to it.
Yeah.
But they had 6 balls there, and they say, "Go ahead, get some shots up." That's what it's there for. Go get shots up. So I got shots up at the Hoosiers gym, and the locker room was unchanged. It was unchanged
from the film.
Unchanged.
Wow.
I mean, you can see him giving the speech to them before they go out. It's in that locker room where he gives. I mean, it's all there. It's stunning. And I said to the guy, I said, "How do you?" Because there's no charge, there's no admission. It's free. I said, "How do you do this?" And he goes, "Well, donations, and then we sell stuff." And I said, "Well, do you have stuff for kids?" And he goes, "Oh boy, do we!" And he had a padlock on like a wooden closet, and he opened the lock. And there was all sorts of Hoosier stuff and Hickory stuff from the movie.
Which I see on you right now.
All this stuff. Yeah, I'm wearing the hoodie. I'm wearing one of the hoodies right now. So I spent a little bit of cash. I say all this to tell all of you, it's only 2 miles off the freeway.
Okay.
Like, if you love that movie or you love hoops, go. Do it. Do it. Check their schedule to make sure. You can check it online, and sometimes it's reserved for events and stuff. Make sure it's not. But do it. It's really worth the 30 minutes or 40 minutes out of your way to go down there and check it out. It was unbeknownst to me, they actually, once a year, they play an Indiana high school all-star basketball game. And like Greg Oden, Mike Connolly, Deshaun Thomas.
Wow.
All these guys had played in it, and they go Hickory versus Terhune in the game. And the guy was telling me when Greg Oden played in it, the doors are only 6 feet tall because it was built in the 30s. So Greg Oden had to bend in half to get into the place to play. But highly, highly recommended. It was ridiculous. And you as a shooter would have loved it because the depth, the wall was right behind the rim.
Oh,
so your depth perception was perfect.
Pure.
It was perfect. It was just pure. You couldn't help but knock them down.
Were you the only person in there?
I was the only person in there, and then there were some, right as I was about ready to leave, there was 7 or 8 kids from town who apparently play pickup games there. That's their open gym. Is go play pickup.
Unbelievable.
It was awesome.
Did you also hit up the Steve Alford Inn?
I did not do that. I think that might be a different exit.
I think it is too. It just is the most ridiculous sign, and I just think everything about it makes me laugh.
Yeah. Well, you and I are of an age where we remember that.
Yeah.
What Alford was and what Keith Smart and Damon Bailey and Indiana basketball, what it was.
Sure.
It hasn't been that for so long. I don't even know how kids now think of Indiana basketball, but there was a time where they were probably the way kids think of Duke now.
Yep.
They were the evil empire to me. I hated Indiana.
Absolutely
hated them. Growing up, hated them.
The General Robert Montgomery Knight.
For some reason, I feel like either your dad or Zago would have liked the General.
Zago loved him because Zago did his graduate school in anthropology at Indiana. So
there you go. I felt like there had to be,
yeah,
it seems like it fits a lot of the ideological ways.
Sure.
Yeah. I think anytime somebody lets you, hey, you can come to Olympic, but you can't swing a club.
You can walk with me though.
Just walk.
And when I was finally going to beat him legit, he walked off citing darkness
God rest in peace.
on the 17th hole. I'm out.
Said that's it.
That's it. It's too dark. We can't play
How
anymore.
old were you at Olympic?
High school, probably.
So you were a good player.
Yeah.
You're not going to embarrass him from 150.
No. Wouldn't embarrass him in any spot on the golf course.
From anywhere.
Yeah.
No, you're not hitting a house. Not that there are any, but you're not going to. That's not a
No.
problem.
And I had new
You're not
course
hitting another
etiquette. I
fairway.
played in big-time tournaments and stuff already. It was ridiculous.
Really is. It's a real hole in his resume, and an otherwise wonderful man. Real hole. All right, we'll go over these receivers, and there could be some other movement as well around the league today with down in Dallas with Amari Cooper. We'll make some sense out of that. There's a lot of bad advice out there about gambling, from secret methods to picking lottery numbers to betting big when you're on a roll. The miss can lose you money and get you in a lot of trouble. So before you wager, find out what's real and what isn't at keepitfunohio.com. We'll update kind of the receiver situation, give you our thoughts on the receivers and what we saw last night. That is coming up next. We're off and running. Cleveland Browns Daily, 850 ESPN Cleveland. The weather is cold outside. A nice hot bath or shower would feel amazing, and you can transform your bathroom into a custom bath that'll feel like a spa. Let the Bath Authority make it a reality for you at a fraction of the cost of the competitors. The Bath Authority is Cleveland's premier bath and shower remodeler with expert factory-trained installers. It's where affordability meets quality. It's the largest selection of bath projects. They're all made in the United States. Change your bathroom from outdated to outstanding. Acrylic tubs that insulate and keep the heat in. Tub to shower conversions. They can do it all. Superior products with expert installers. Takes about a day. And if you call right now, you get $500 off your next custom bath or shower remodel. Give them a call at 216-220-8399 or go to thebathauthority.com. It's where affordability meets quality on that front. You mentioned briefly there off the top of the show the receivers last night, and obviously the two Buckeyes. I saw our mutual friend Nick Shook saying this much is clear: the two Buckeye receivers have separated. from everybody else in the group that he saw last night. Many other people felt that way as well. They both blazed, both sub 4.4 by the time all is said and done. The one image that the one piece of video that I saw this morning that was just the coolest to me, that kind of give you an idea of how special I think he is it was actually the one where they have him just run straight down the line.
The gauntlet.
And, yeah. And Wilson was catching – the balls coming from each side, and Wilson was catching them all like it's such ease with his hands.
I felt like he was even like joking a little bit with it. He was like jumping on some of the catches and doing like splits in the air, like as if he was like he was like putting on a little bit of a show.
A little bit of a show, yeah. And then he turned the corner, and you're like, oh, okay, that's kind of what you think. Look, it's hard not to just be in love with him. It is. That's why he was the guy who shall not be named, going all the way back to what? I mean, when did we start that? December?
In the collegiate season.
Towards the end of the year?
Yeah.
We're like, hey, we need this. We need this deep threat guy.
Yep.
And he checks all those boxes. And then you listen to him this week at the Combine, and you hear, his familiarity with Baker, his reverence for Baker, and you say to yourself, that seems to check every single box. And you feel good about it because, frankly, it seems like if the Jets are going receiver, that the interest, it felt like at the Combine, was in Drake London.
Yes.
Or maybe even Burks. So it's possible that he might be right there for you. And we don't know what our guys think of him, but we know what we think of him. It seems like it's all lining up to get this receiver situation sorted out in this first round, my friend.
Yep. I think that, you're in great spot. And I thought that what I took away from it and just being an Indian and then watching last night is that not only – are you going to have some great options at 13? But this is a draft that there are going to be very good players in the second round and even into the third round. And I thought some guys, were very, very impressive. And you learned some things about some of the other guys as well that were interesting. I thought the young man from Western Michigan put on a very nice show, Sky Moore. I thought he looked very impressive to me. Christian Watson from North Dakota State was – it feels like, and I realize that he, didn't go to Notre Dame and have the hype, but doesn't he feel like a Chase Claypool or maybe even a better Chase Claypool? I mean, you have to see him in the NFL, but he just looked really impressive. I thought, obviously, Wilson, great. But I just thought there were a lot of guys that were really, really impressive out there. Wan'Dale Robinson out of Kentucky, and I thought it was cool. Jeremiah shared a story that Wan'Dale Robinson, while he was at Kentucky, I guess the coach at Kentucky, somebody on the offense side of Kentucky now works for the Rams.
Okay.
Left Kentucky to go to the Rams. And he was telling a story that coach said that Wan'Dale Robinson is the guy that most reminds him of Cooper Kupp and Robert Woods in the draft in terms of just the work ethic and the cerebral approach. And in fact, he was starting to suggest route concepts that would then go on and work, and just his absolute commitment to the game, love of the game, that it's his life, his lifestyle. And he's another that just hearing that and then watching him and made him feel like a pretty intriguing guy. Alec Pierce, I thought, had a good day as well.
So he's a kid on Wan'Dale, real quick. He's a kid who started at Nebraska. So he was one of the biggest recruits for Scott Frost at Nebraska, and he was really their only playmaker for a couple of years at Nebraska. And during his time there, they used him all over. I mean, he took some snaps. They used him at running back. They used him in motion. They put him in the slot. They used him everywhere.
Yep.
And I think at times we're just over-reliant because they just did not have a lot of talent on the roster, so they just relied on him to do a lot of things. And then going into his junior year, he transferred back home to Kentucky. His mom was ill, and he's from that area, and he transferred back to Kentucky. Well, part of the thing in transferring to Kentucky is he got to play full-time receiver, and he got to spend a year play, and they run a pro style offense like any of us would. And by pro style, I mean shotgun spread, which is what most teams run now. And he was able to get there and play receiver, and he blossomed. He flourished. I mean, he was great at Nebraska. He was their whole offense. But at Kentucky, getting to be able to just play receiver, he benefited from that tremendously. So you're right. That's the thing. Yeah, we're going to get a great one at 13. You might get a good to great one in the second or even the third.
Yep.
And remember, guys, we have those extra thirds.
Yep. So
we could, if you need to make some moves, you could do that too.
Right. And I think that's, just it was clear, one of those, we talk about worst kept secrets. It just felt like a worst kept secret. And it's obvious, right? I mean, you look at our roster and look what we're trying to accomplish here on the offensive side of the ball. We need to get that receiver. And that was kind of everybody you talked to. Thought that the Browns were certainly into the receivers and linked, the names that you would expect to be linked to the Browns. All the receivers who spoke mentioned they had met with the Browns, so they're doing their work on that aspect. But I do think that there is some real depth here. Were you surprised that David Bell ran a 4.65?
Yeah, but I don't think that's if he were, I think he's a pro.
Gotcha.
I mean, I think he was a pro. I wouldn't worry about the 4.65. It's it's slower, but he's got a good catch radius. He's really good in traffic. He had some monster games this year in the Big Ten. Monster games, 200-yard receiving type games on a couple of occasions. So, I wouldn't. It's kind of like Rondale Moore. I mean, they're obviously very different players, but just from the standpoint of Moore was a little shorter than everybody thought he was going to be, a little smaller. And I remember saying, I'm not sure it matters too much. Sometimes you just see guys play and they can play. I think David Bell can play. I mean,
yep.
I think he's a pro. So, I mean, that doesn't mean you take him in the first round, but if he's somebody who slips, to me, he seems like a professional football player when you watch him play. That's slow, but I wouldn't be worried. It's kind of like Burks. I think you make a great point on Burks. He wasn't as fast. He didn't dazzle, but sometimes you have to trust the tape.
Right.
And he didn't get caught much,
No, he led the SEC. The SEC,
Correct.
which is, I know we're Ohio State, Big Ten country, all of that. It's wonderful. And the Buckeyes are the one team, I think, from the Big Ten that could go play and be successful in the SEC. But the SEC is the conference of note in
Correct.
college football. I mean, just look at the first round and look at how many SEC players are taken in the first round of drafts. It dwarfs all other conferences. So to lead that conference in plays of more than 20 yards, I think is impressive and indicative of somebody who is capable of making big plays against elite competition, because many of the people that he played against are going to be drafted in this draft or the next draft.
I think sometimes you just kind of have to trust the tape.
The tape's
what matters
the majority.
most.
That's the meat.
Yeah.
That's the meat.
Yeah, that should be it. I was trying to pull up David Bell's game logs this year. So he's 12. Let me see. Because I wanted to say he had a monster game. I thought it was against good competition. Oh, yeah. Okay, so two of the three best defenses in the Big Ten were Iowa. I mean, Iowa was probably the best defense in the Big Ten last year, and they had pros on the back end of it and a pro at linebacker, and he had 11 catches for 240 against Iowa in a win. He had 11 catches for 217 against Michigan State, talking about David Bell, the kid out of Purdue. He had 11 catches for 103 against Ohio State. So in terms of against the very best teams Purdue played, he was really good. He wasn't stat padding against bad teams. He was great against good teams.
Yeah.
Against the best teams. They played, Ohio State was fourth when they played him, 11-103. Michigan State was third when they played him, 11 for 217. Iowa was second in the country when they played him, and he had 11 for 240.
Wow.
So
he can play.
That's the way I remembered it. Yeah, he can play.
And that's a guy that I even remember, our guy that we love so much. Jarvis didn't test great coming out, and Jarvis Landry absolutely can play. Led the NFL, had the most catches anybody's ever had in their first 5 years in the league. And maybe that's something that that Bell will mimic and be able to do in his career. I just want to go back to Christian Watson again and 4.3.
The kid out of
North Dakota State.
That kid out of North Dakota State. Yeah.
6'4".
The backstory on him: he's a Florida kid, right?
Yep.
He's from the Tampa area.
Yep. And there's that pipeline there.
Yeah, and somehow he was unrecruited or lightly recruited out of high school and ends up at North Dakota State. Go ahead.
Yeah, and he goes there. He's 6'4", he's 210, and what he did was run 4.36, vert 38.5, broad 11.04, which is one of the longest in combine history. So you look at his athletic profile, it's off the charts. I mean, I think I think this workout for him is going to put him in a position where I think he goes in the second round.
Yeah, I mean, I think those type of things are in play. I think it feels like Burks, London, Wilson, Olave are locks in the first.
Yep.
And then I think the fifth receiver, it could be Watson, it could be Jahan Dotson. There's probably other couple of guys in there, but it feels like you could have 5 or 6 by the time all's said and done in that first round.
So there are 3 receivers in the history of the league that ranked in that at 6'4" or higher put together an athletic profile that like Watson did. And now it's a 50-50 proposition, obviously. But when I give you the 2 names, Calvin Johnson, hit.
Okay.
Stephen Hill was the other.
Stephen Hill.
Yeah, he was drafted and it just never
Maryland?
materialized.
Is he out of Maryland?
I don't know. Let me look that up. I want to say he was on the Jets.
Boy, I got nothing on that.
Stephen Hill, former American, drafted by the Jets in the 2nd round of 2012, played also at Georgia Tech.
Oh. Boy, I wouldn't have had that. I don't remember him in any way. Interesting. Very interesting. Yeah, well, who were we talking to who saw it when they first saw the video when they were looking at Trey Lance and they paid attention to him? We just were talking to somebody over at the Combine this week about it, how they, they first became aware of him looking at video of Trey Lance. So
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, it's a deep class, and guess what? The position got deeper in free agency. It could get deeper in free agency. It looks like the Cowboys are going to part ways with Amari Cooper, that he could be on the way out in Dallas.
That's an interesting one. I mean, I remember seeing Amari Cooper here when he was with the Raiders when we played them, and he just an incredible route runner, a real number 1. But you went to Dallas and you thought it was going to really kind of take off for him. And it felt like it never really did in that way that you would have expected for Amari Cooper. Now, he had some very productive games.
I mean, the last 2 years they've had – I mean, like the last 2 years, Dak's been hurt almost all the time, hit or miss. So, yeah, it's hard to know. And then they invested in CeeDee Lamb right away.
Yep.
And obviously he's a more electric player.
I mean,
I do find it – and I saw Sam Monson, put this out on Twitter, and you kind of agree to him as much as you hate to because he's a great Buckeye. But like, they're worried about Amari Cooper's money. Meantime, Zeke Elliott, like, we're not worried about that.
I mean, yes, obviously, no doubt. You look at Amari just quickly, 1,189 yards, 8 touchdowns his first year with Dallas on 15.1 a catch. Then the year Dak misses, still goes 92, 11, 14, and 5. And last year, 68, 865, and 8 in 14 games. He's never been below in the last 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 seasons. He's never been below 8 yards a target. And in fact, only once in his career was he below 8 yards a target, and that was in 2017 with the Raiders. I still think Amari Cooper's got a lot left. I mean, his analytics are very strong in terms of what he's able to do. He's somebody that I think he of the free agents, if the Browns were going to go hard at free agency, he's somebody that you would look at. I mean, I think that you would, another Dallas Cowboy that's a free agent and a guy that I like a lot, Cedric Wilson, probably be cheaper. And then you wonder if this means that they would rather keep Cedric Wilson there in Dallas. And Wilson's a guy last year, 45 catches, 602 yards, averaged 9.9 a target. That's a great threshold. That's something that you love to see. But if you were to kind of go on a game-by-game basis, when he was given opportunity, Cedric Wilson's a guy who absolutely produced. 6'2", 200 pounds, and he's somebody that wouldn't cost near what Amari Cooper would, but I think gives you some real juice. Like that, he feels like more of a Browns type of an addition than maybe an Amari Cooper would feel like, and just a pretty darn productive guy. And you look at last year, and to my point, when he was asked to take on a big role, and so we're talking, like getting good amounts of targets. He had 10 targets, 7 catches, 104 yards against the Raiders when he started that game. In his starts, he was a fairly productive receiver. Finished the year out last 2 weeks, 11 catches, 140 yards, 3 touchdowns. He's an intriguing guy that I think, you look at him, you say he's got more opportunity, but I wonder if the Cowboys who saw that said, well, that's why we don't need Amari. We can go Gallup, Wilson with CeeDee Lamb as our number 1.
Yeah, fascinating. But, I mean, it's already a deep receiver pool. I mean, Mike Williams is in there. I mean, there's a lot of talented guys in this receiver pool in free agency. So it's going to be – there's a lot of opportunity to upgrade that position both in draft and in free agency. OBM, Ohio Business Machine, preferred copier provider, your Cleveland Browns. They have all the X's and O's for your office. Call 216-485-2000 or visit ohiobusinessmachines.com. You listen to Cleveland Browns Daily on 850 ESPN Cleveland. Your business operation collects all the data you need, but you're having a hard time bringing it together and seeing the full picture. Beau here for my friends at EOX Vantage. They're data scientists who also are in business operations as experts. Your EOX Vantage team will help you build an automated system that brings your data sources together in real time and turns them into eye-opening dashboards so you can make smart, time-sensitive decisions. Staring at spreadsheets that provide insight you needed to know last month? With EOX Vantage, you know exactly where your people stand on their activities and deliverables and gauge your financial performance easily, accurately. Track the progress and your return on investment. Check out how companies are making their business intelligence smarter by visiting EOXVantage.com. They are the best. EOXVantage.com. I had mentioned the free agent pool of receivers and potentially Amari Cooper going into that. We could have more because we'll have more buyouts. I mean,
yes.
We're not done with that yet. There's going to be some more that could be added to that list. It's a robust list, pal, when you think about who could be there at receiver in free agency.
It's a very robust list. And then the question becomes who actually does get to free agency, who continues to be added to this list as well. And so if you're looking at kind of the group and then you try to think of like, all right, who could maybe make sense for the Browns in free agency? Well, Amari Cooper, that feels like a home run type of a name. Devontae Adams, at the Combine, I think it became very clear that he was going to be back in Green Bay. Chris Godwin, it's pretty clear they want him back in Tampa Bay. Mike Williams, it's pretty clear they want him back with the Chargers. Odell, it's pretty clear that both he and the Rams would like to have him back. Michael Gallup, the release of Amari Cooper all but assures that Michael Gallup will be back with the Dallas Cowboys. So a lot of people have those guys throwing Amari Cooper as the top 6 receivers available. Cooper would be the only one that it feels like at this point is a good bet to move on somewhere else. So after that, who do you have? Allen Robinson. And while if this were 2014, 2016, 17, 18, 19, 20, I would be pounding the table. It's hard to know if Allen Robinson's decline last year was because when you're a big physical receiver like he is, not necessarily a burner, that does time eventually take its toll on your skill set because his numbers were atrocious last year. I love Allen Robinson. I mean, he was one of my favorite people I ever scouted back in 2014 out of Penn State. But he's a guy that's out there. Christian Kirk, I think, is a very intriguing name. A lot of speed to stress things vertically, operated mostly out of the slot. Could he be a fit for us? I could see that. Juju Smith-Schuster, not the player that he once was, it feels like. DJ Chark, I find DJ Chark to be very, very interesting. The Jag, who was, got a 1,000-yard season under his belt, young guy, fast. LSU kid, if I'm not mistaken, right? Another LSU receiver, DJ Chark.
Yep.
Then you get into a guy like Alan Lazard, who's put up some nice numbers with the Green Bay Packers when given opportunities. Big target, down-the-field player, but he's a restricted free agent. Will Fuller, I think, is a totally intriguing guy and maybe somebody that fits our mindset in the sense that he is you'd sign him on a one-year deal. Brandon Cooks, we were told at the Combine, is 100% going to be available for trade with the Texans. Now, that's a guy you're asking me. This is Nathan Zegura's opinion. What do we have, 2 fourths? Throw him one of those 2 fourths and give me Brandon Cooks all day long. Yeah. Guy's productive everywhere he goes. He is a vertical threat that would absolutely change the way that a team had to defend us. So then all of a sudden you have Brandon Cooks, draft a guy at 13, and then you've come back. Hopefully maybe you could get a situation worked out with Jarvis. Those are your top 3 with DP Jason is your 4. Schwartz is a speed guy. The 5. I mean, all of a sudden your receiving core is
now you're in
stacked.
Business.
I mean, you are very much in business. So I think Will Fuller's an interesting name to keep an eye on. And then we mentioned like Cedric Wilson. I talked about him. I think Zay Jones, former second-round pick of the Bills, I thought he blossomed a little bit with the Raiders last year. And he's a guy that is tall, can get vertical, and would be significantly cheaper. So I don't see us looking at an A.J. Green. I don't see us looking at an Emmanuel Sanders per se. Or a Sammy Watkins at this point.
No.
Russell Gage is a very nice player if you need somebody cheap to operate out of the slot, if that, depending on how things are able to work out. But it's a good group, and I think you can attack this position. And this is something I talked about yesterday. You look at Andrew Berry's track record. His track record is to attack a position of need, both in the draft and in free agency. So let's start with the first year. Offensive line. We bring in Jack Conklin. We draft Jedrick Wills. We also drafted Nick Harris. You look at tight end that first year. We bring in Austin Hooper. We draft Harrison Bryant. You go now to year 2. Now the focus is on the defensive side of the ball. You sign Malik Jackson. You draft Tommy Togiai. You think about, go to the linebacker position. You sign Anthony Walker Jr. You draft Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah. Go to the cornerback position. You sign Troy Hill. You draft Greg Newsome.
Yep.
So that has been the MO thus far. And you could even go to safety last year. You signed John Johnson. You had previously drafted Grant Delpit, but you also drafted Richard LeCount in that same draft. So that is the way that it has been operating here under, right now under Andrew Berry. So it would not at all surprise me to see this be a team that it takes the defensive end of position. We need to go ahead and draft somebody, and we need to sign somebody. Defensive tackle, probably the same. Need to draft somebody and sign somebody. You talk about in the safety room, you probably need to retain somebody, maybe an MJ Stewart, and then you'd have LeCount to come up. They like Javante Moffitt, but sign somebody, draft somebody potentially there. And then, of course, the obvious one is at wide receiver. Sign somebody, draft somebody. And there are a lot of good options. Or trade for somebody. The idea in my mind that if Houston is really wanting to enter into a fire sale, that was the one thing that shocked me. I don't remember who we were talking to. I don't know if that was Albright that said that to us off the air, that Houston Tunsil's going to be gone, Brandon Cooks is going to be gone, Watson's going to be gone.
Yeah, down to the studs.
To the studs. Well, Brandon Cooks, I've said this many times, that's exactly what you would want to inject into this offense, in addition to, obviously, if we could get a stud in the draft, whether that be at 13 or in the second round. Getting a guy like Brandon Cooks makes it a little bit easier to maybe not go at 13, which I really want to do. But here's what Brandon Cooks has done in his career since 2015. 1,138 yards with the Saints, 1,173 yards with the Saints, 1,082 with New England. The next year, 1,204 with the Rams. I don't even know how many receivers in history. I would be really curious. How many receivers in history have put up 3 consecutive 1,000-yard seasons while averaging more than 15 yards a catch on 3 different teams? I don't know if that's ever happened.
God, no, that's got to be a very, very short list.
I don't know if that's ever happened.
That would have to be a very, very short list.
He's done for his career now because guess what? Both seasons in Houston, he's been over 1,000 yards. So this is a guy who's got 1,000 yards with 4 different teams. That, again, think about it. Receivers who leave in free agency are often massive disappointments. Brandon Cooks was on 3 different teams in 3 different systems and put up over 1,000 yards 3 consecutive seasons. I really believe that might be without precedent.
Yeah, I can't imagine it. I think I like the idea of him and one at 13 because I think what that does, that all of a sudden you're set.
You're cooking with gas,
now,
brother.
Yeah, for sure. So now all of a sudden you could look in the second round and you could get a defensive end, which you need. You get a good value pick there. That changes everything. So I think Andrew Berry will. I think you bring up some great points in terms of what historically we've known of Andrew Berry and the way that he attacks free agency, the way that he attacks the draft. When he has positions and issues of need, he's on it.
He's on it.
He is on it. And he knows, I think we all know what this is about. And so those things are going to be things that he's going to address in a very, very big way. And I think if you take anything from this, guys, take this. There are many a way to improve this position.
Yep.
Free agency, trade, draft. There's a lot of opportunity out there.
Speaking of trade, as we're on the air and as things like this come to be from time to time, the morning, Amari Cooper is going to be cut by the Cowboys. The afternoon, Monday Morning Quarterback reporting that the Cowboys are now exploring trade partners for Amari Cooper.
Oh, that's interesting. So they're trying to find
So I would imagine those trade discussions
low pick
start at not a low pick. Nay. Those trade discussions are going to start probably, they're going to want at least a 2. And the reason I say that is because letting him walk in free agency with the kind of contract he'll sign guarantees them a comp 3.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I'll be interested if anybody will give it to him just because they know they're going to have to cut him if they don't. I guess it guarantees you have him, obviously.
Well, and also the other issue, it means that you would have to lock in with him as well. You'd have to lock in. When you made that trade, you would have had to pre-negotiate a new contract for him.
Yeah.
Because you're not paying him what he's currently making.
Right. Yeah. Oh, it's fascinating. Yeah, the business. Well, we said it. I mean, business is up. I think everyone's still waiting on Rodgers to make it official, but everybody knows he's sticking around. So that's kind of where we are. It's time to get aggressive, and the business of the NFL is certainly on. Beau here for my friend at Indy East 4th. Excited to be part of the great story of East 4th Street, bringing a music-themed atmosphere with great Southern comfort cuisine and rooftop patio bar to East 4th. Offering unique menu items paired with barrel-aged cocktails. Brought to you by the owners of Char Whiskey Bar and Grill and Avo Modern Mexican. Come in on Saturdays for Indy's Grunge Brunch, Saturdays from 10 to 3. Indy is hiring as well. Stop into Indy on East 4th Street to apply. Learn more at Indy East 4th on social for more information on that front. All right, coming up at the top of the hour, Z goes one-on-one with NFL Network host and the wrangler of the Hoff, Colleen Wolfe, from the Combine. It's coming up next. You're listening to Cleveland Browns Daily on 850 ESPN Cleveland.
the friend of the program, Joe Thomas, Colleen Wolfe, host of what I thought was the best show in all of football. I'm being serious when I say that. NFL Network, where you can catch her. So let's talk about that. We have talked, Beau and I, on this show many times, even with the Huff. We thought that was, in our minds, the equivalent of Inside the NBA with Shaq and Chuck and, EJ and Kenny the Jet. How fun was it doing that show?
That show has been the best experience of my career. I can't even truly describe how much fun it was working on the road with those three personalities. And it was a traveling circus we were. And it went on during the breaks. It went on behind the scenes. Like, you guys only saw a sliver of the craziness that I feel like I had so many stories that I started to write them down because I would forget things that happened. It was like my news cycle in my head of just experiences was just unbelievable. But obviously working with Michael Irvin, who you just put the quarter in and you don't know what's going to come out, but he's going to go. And he's going to go in so many different directions. And Steve Smith Sr., you never know what's going to come out of his mouth, but you always know where you stand with him and where he stands on a certain subject. So he makes things extremely interesting, and Joe Thomas is one of the best. I love him so much. Like, I have had so many meals with Joe Thomas, with that entire crew.
He's a tremendous eater, by the way. Tremendous.
My God. And I still can't get over when I look at the photos of him from when he played to now. It's like two different people. And like, when I give him a hug, it's like hugging a piece of granite. Like, yes. It's unbelievable. He's huge. Yeah.
He's a beast. He's chiseled out of stone. So what's so fun about that show, and you kind of hit on a lot of it, is just how fun it was, especially when you guys got to have the crowds back and feel that energy. But I mean, Steve Smith would sometimes just like body bag somebody out of nowhere, and you guys would be like, and Joe's looking around like, what just happened? And I just kind of liked it. I just thought that was so fun to watch that dynamic.
Steve Smith would body bag someone out of nowhere, but usually it would be the quarterback of the Browns.
That happened many times. And we would, in fact, I remember the one Thursday night game, it was playing, I think, in the stadium. Okay. Because then beforehand they like play that around all the monitors, and I'm like, what is going on? And Joe's like, no. Joe's like, come on, man, come on. But I think that's fun because when you're watching that show that it is real. Like, you can produce Steve Smith, you can produce Irv as much as you want, but they're going to say whatever it is on their mind at that moment.
And that's why that show was so much fun, because it was so chaotic. And the chaos is where I thrive. It's where they thrive. I love when a rundown can just be completely ripped up. And we're like, you know what? We were supposed to have this conversation, but what you just said is really crazy. So can you please expand on that right now? And then to be back on the road with fans, like you said, after the year that we did the pandemic, where we were all at our houses and they had me in the studio, this like big cavernous studio alone, I was just so happy to be able to sit at a desk and see them next to me, and then have the energy of the fans. It's something that I've never experienced, and having the ability to go to all these different cities and be in all of these stadiums and see all of these different fan bases and all of the signs, and everyone's traveled from all over and everyone has stories, and being able to talk with everyone and hear those stories from the fans has just been such a life-altering experience. It's been really cool. I love it.
It's great, and it comes through, obviously, on the screen. The one thing I want to ask, you mentioned being in front of the fans. I thought Philly was probably, for a variety of reasons, and I'll get into those in a second, my favorite of all the shows, because the fans were bonkers. You had Joe flapping his wings like an eagle in Irv's face, Irv hating it. Hating it. A genuine, like, maybe they were going to come to blows. And then what goes through your mind when they throw the beer and hit Steve Smith, and he has the fastest snap around, and like Joe's like, I thought he was going to go kill somebody.
Wait, so I think that when that happened, I'm so used to all three of their personalities that someone was like, you just continued to clean up all of your stuff and you didn't even think twice about it. And I was like, nah, yeah, like, I know Steve's going to be fine. Like, he's going to like get mad about that. Well, because like that beer mostly hit him, and I didn't know what happened. And then apparently it was like a situation where someone was on someone else's shoulders with the beer, and then like they fell, and so it wasn't yes. But still, that didn't help things. He was hot for a second after that. And then Irv's talking about Philly fans. And I was like, shut up, Irv. Like, this is – be quiet.
It was great television, though. And I'm sure that you probably deal with a lot of – I would imagine you have a producer in your ear being like, can you try to control this? And it's sometimes – no, I cannot control this.
Yeah. And they'll be like, okay, like, rap. You got to rap them. And I'm like, do you want me to physically get up and take the microphone away from him? Like, you guys can cut his mic. Go ahead and do it. Right. But that's the best stuff when they start to get on each other about things and you can see them sort of start to spiral. That's when I'm like, I don't know if I should intervene because this is really entertaining. I'm just watching it like everyone else.
So when you guys came to Cleveland this year, was that kind of fun to feel that passion? Because I know you have so many passionate fan base out there. Ours, I would put up against any. I think it is bonkers, the love that you have and players feel it. Joe certainly knows that. What was it like to get to come to Cleveland again this year?
I love going to Cleveland, and I love going to Cleveland with Joe Thomas. It's like being with royalty.
He is.
And I still will never forget, it was one of my first ever TNF games, and it was the first time I worked with Joe Thomas, and it was when the Browns played the Jets 2 years ago? 2 years ago?
2018.
Oh my God, what? Tyrod Taylor was there, he got hurt, and then Baker came in the second half of the
Victory fridges.
game, and the beers came out, and I have never seen Joe Thomas. He's such a large human being, and he looked like a little kid. Like the joy on his face during that game, it was such an experience. And honestly, there are so many games that I'm like, I don't even know what happened last year, but I will never forget being in Cleveland for that moment, being at the airport the next day, and everyone was so happy. It was just such a joyous occasion. And so, and even this year, being there with Joe, having the best tour guides of all tour guides, he is just such an incredible human being. I love his whole entire family, and he makes Cleveland special.
I couldn't have said it any better myself. What a fine human being. You are a fine human being, Colleen. Thanks so much for the time and sharing some of the fun stories with us.
Thank you so much.
All right, we'll be back with more Cleveland Browns Daily right after this.
Your business operations collect all the data that you need, but are you having a hard time bringing it together and seeing the full picture? Well, my friends at EOX Vantage can help. Their data scientists are also business operations experts. Your EOX Vantage team will help you build an automated system that brings your data sources together in real time and turns them into eye-opening dashboards so you can make smart, time-sensitive decisions. Staring at spreadsheets provide insight you needed to know last month. With EOX Vantage, you're going to know exactly where your people stand on their activities and deliverables. Engage your financial performance. Pretty simple. Easily and accurately, you can track progress and your ROI. Check out how companies are making their business intelligence smarter by visiting eoxvantage.com for more information there. A couple of little tidbits and morsels. I saw this from Jay Morrison of The Athletic on the Bengals. This is a quote from Bengals special team coach Darren Simmons on kicker Evan McPherson staying out to watch the Super Bowl halftime show. He said, quote, "That's a sore subject. That's a real sore subject." Do you believe him?
Why?
That's kind of where I thought. Like,
did he miss a
why?
kick?
Like,
did he miss a kick after that?
exactly.
No.
Did he miss a kick ever?
No.
Didn't feel like it.
So what's the problem?
Like, feels like he's just fine.
What's the problem?
So, and then beyond that, if you do have a problem with it, well, then why would you say it publicly? Wouldn't this have long been covered in team meetings? And to be fair, I don't know the tone of this, so maybe it was tongue-in-cheek. I don't know. I'm just reading it directly. It wasn't presented tongue-in-cheek.
Didn't sound like it.
If you did have a problem with him staying out and watching the Super Bowl halftime show, well, then it's probably already been addressed. And it probably doesn't need to be rehashed now, nearly a month later.
By the way, if you had a problem with it as well, you could have easily sent somebody out there. Hey.
Yeah, go get him.
Go
get that idiot.
Get him into the locker room.
It's not hard.
No.
Here's another one for you. Darren Ravel, the Saints season ticket invoice is just hit, and the team is offering printable tickets for $100. With the collectible ticket market becoming a thing, expect many teams to do this in the future, even for tickets that won't work at the gate. I hope that – I don't like the idea that they're charging fans for it.
No.
I don't love the idea of that. I think just make it an option if fans want to print out their ticket, or if they want printable tickets, just give it to them. I mean, I think that's a pretty easy thing.
Yeah.
But I don't know how you are, but I have kept every credential from every sporting event I've ever had.
I have them all.
They're
same.
Yeah, same. It's cool. I love it. And my wife took a couple of the ones of the more significant ones and made a couple of collages, and they're down on the wall. But in terms of, I still have them all in shoe boxes down in the basement. I like the idea of tangible versus scrolling through a phone trying to find an image of something. It's just cooler to have it that you can touch, man.
You're not wrong. I agree with you. I
Yeah.
keep all those things too. I think it's fun. I think I always thought it was cool when you'd get, like, back in the old days. I remember with, like, when we had season tickets to A's, you get like a sheet and you had to, like, break them off along the perforations for each ticket. I love that.
Yes.
That's fantastic. Get to hold it, look at it. Yeah, I'm with you.
Yeah. I think you got to find a way to satisfy that. I know it's easier and people want to go with the phones and all of that stuff, but you got to have something you can get your hands on a little bit, pal. So there you go on that front. I know that there was some big consternation about the album cover of you and Gibbe.
Oh yeah, it was really a treat. So we took that picture. That was at Kilroy's. Had a wonderful night. Nick Shook joined us. Really just had a blast. And we took that picture.
Take me through your evening, because there was some discussion about how it was going to go. I had given you some advice for the one night that you were there without me. And of course I had a night there without you, and somehow we press on. What did you end up doing on your very sad? What did you end up doing on your Wednesday night when I was getting up jumpers at the Hoosiers gym?
So I went to Elmo's, sat at the bar.
Love it.
And I was lucky. I got right in as two people got up, and so I was able to sit. Literally walked in and sat right down, which they had told me for a while. They said, it's probably going to be a little bit of a wait, and walked right in there. Sat down, I had the shrimp cocktail, I had a nice Caesar salad, and then had their prime rib, which I would say was good, not great. I prefer my own prime rib, but I didn't have the time or the wherewithal to cook it. I will say one piece of advice going forward, and the guy was up front with me about it, but you tell me if you feel like I effectively communicated what I wanted. So
okay, go ahead. Let's go.
I said I'll have the prime rib medium rare. And he said, well, our medium rare is is pretty much rare. And I said, I just want it medium rare. So, like, I thought there was a pretty standard definition, rare, medium.
Everybody knows what medium rare is. I mean, what I would say is, who in the blue hell does he think he is? And I know he's at Elmo's, one of the most famous steakhouses in the world, but, like, there has to be a standard medium rare.
It's 129 degrees. There is a standard. It is based on the temperature. There's a standard.
Right.
And so he said, well, our medium rare is, more rare than most people's. And I said, so all
impossible.
I said is, give me an actual medium rare. That's what I'm asking for. So you handle, like, whether you have to put that in as medium.
You figure it out, man.
But give me back medium rare. There is a standard for this. I feel pretty confident about that.
Oh, no.
So it came out. It was more rare than I would have wanted. I'm not going to have them, like,
more rare.
Recook it.
Okay. I was fearful it was going to go the other way.
See, with a ribeye, you can get away with it. Like, if it came out medium, I would have been fine with it, because then at least you know that it's getting to a temp where it's going to the marbling will render a little bit. You'll render the fat a little bit. So it was on the side of being a little too cool so that the fat had not fully rendered into the meat. Now, it did on some parts of it, but not in the center. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Which is fine. Again, it was a great piece of meat, but it also happened to have a ginormous rib cap, which is the best part anyway.
Okay.
And that part was where I needed it to be. So that was fine. The other thing they do that I find is very interesting with the prime rib is they finish the outside. So they must hack it out of the roast and then finish it on a grill to put X marks on it, which on a prime rib, I don't think you need that.
That's really interesting. So when you sent me the picture of what you ordered, I would not have guessed it was a prime rib.
You would have thought it was just a ribeye, a ginormous one,
yeah.
Right? So
enormous, but yeah, I mean that you can get those. I would have thought that's what it was. I would not have gone to prime rib.
No, so that's what I got. And again, it was great, but that's just one thing, and maybe that's different. I don't remember that being the case in years past.
I'm trying to think if I've ever ordered the prime rib over there. I think I've only done steaks over there.
But I think we can all agree there's a standard. The standard is 129 degrees.
That bugs me. I got to tell you, and this is going to be a controversial take, and we'll get back to the album in a second. The way I feel about that place, and I love it. I love the sightseeing. I love how seriously it takes itself. I appreciate all of that. But I got news for you, man. Like, that's just a shrimp cocktail. That's all it is. I mean,
it's not a top 10 steakhouse in my life. Not even close.
I agree.
But
it's one where the reputation, and you have to go, and it's so synonymous with Indy.
Yes.
And they do a great job of marketing.
Yes.
Anytime that there's anything there, I know that the shrimp cocktail showed up in the media workroom on Thursday or something
cool.
like that. Which is cool. Like, they did that at the Super Bowl. They do that at the Big Ten Championship at the media workroom. Like, and by the way, media people, we're the worst. We'll take everything free. Most media people take everything free. Like, you could give them a bag of chips, and they'd take 12 if they were free. They would fill up their bags with free chips. So the idea that you're giving them shrimp cocktail, like, to them, this is the greatest meal that's ever happened in the history of meals.
Yeah.
And it's a fine shrimp cocktail. It's
excellent.
A crispy shrimp, which is what I like. I like it.
I don't like
a
mealy shrimp is disgusting.
No one wants a mealy shrimp.
No.
It's got to crack.
Yes.
It's got to. And they do. And it's a really hot horseradish sauce.
Yep.
But it's just a shrimp cocktail in the end.
Agreed.
That's all it is.
They made a great Caesar.
Good.
I'll give them that. It was a tremendous Caesar, and I think that is something to be very proud of. I think.
Now, did they cream it?
It's a light. It's a light. If it is creamed, it's very light. Okay. It tastes a lot more like a tableside Caesar.
I like it. I like where your head's at.
Which is wonderful. And then it was a wonderful piece of meat. I would say, we've created a standard for temperatures that apply all around the world and in our great country, and let's just go ahead and also use that there. It's a cool place to be. The vibe is cool at the Combine, especially. Like, if I went there on a Tuesday or on a Wednesday, a Wednesday night, a First Friday, just when nothing's going on in Indy, would I think it was that cool? No, but everywhere I looked, I saw head coaches. I saw the Collinsworth. I saw, greats of the game walking around. Sure. And you're like, oh, this is a cool place. And sitting at the bar was fun. I watched a very good finish I would not have watched otherwise. I think it was Indiana and maybe Maryland had an awesome finish in their game. Yeah. Ronnie Hoppe Jr. dropped in like a 3 at the buzzer to win the game.
There you go.
So it was great. And then I went and met up with Gibbe and Starkey and AP Poisal and the Nick Shook at the Kilroys, and we ended up having a blast over there. It was a fun time. So we take this picture, and so I asked for album cover names.
All right,
and
I'll vote.
So you tell me. So I'll run through the ones that I favorited that made it into this part. There are a lot of them, so maybe I'll be judicious here. I'll pick through. So Mr. Hamp to you, Hamp the Champ, our guy. He said he gave us a whole thing. From the artist who brought you higher or lower, we don't need no on-air light, and ref better have my money. Jason G and Nathan Z present their debut album, The Biggest Bees, album in stores everywhere Friday, which I enjoyed the whole setup there.
I mean, the preamble is incredible, but Gibby's not a big B.
No, it would be the big B
P.
and the sometimes big B.
Right. Yeah, medium P.
Michael Boehm, Big B's on tap. I like that. I had a guy who made a picture of it. He did a great job. Called us the Drunk Dial Delights, which I thought was interesting.
Sober Dial Delights.
Yeah, so we were not drunk. No, responsible adults. Lori Kavanaugh, Funked Up in the 216, the new album by Jason G Unit featuring Nate Dogg drops Friday. I like that. This one was topical.
I like that one.
Gibby Manili, Blame It on the Labrum instead of Blame It on the Rain. Rob Branham had Dr. Z and DeLurk, Tales from Hoosierville, Volume 1. I enjoyed that.
I like that.
Ben Hausler, Where Have You Gone, Dan Marino? That made me laugh.
Did you ever see Marino again?
Nope. Greg, he says,
this will forever be, as a quick aside, this will forever be the Marino Combine.
No doubt.
Like,
that's the highlight.
His idea that him wrapping his head around that we should have.
He was incredulous.
Dan Marino.
He was incredulous
at lunch. Yes, just so upset that we did not approach Dan Marino at lunch. The buy-off was going to be we were going to pay for the lunch for an entire table of Dolphins executives, and the get-back was Dan Marino was going to come on Cleveland Browns Daily. That was what was supposed to happen.
And
I talked to sorry to break in. I talked to Gibbs about that yesterday on the show, and I basically told him, I was like, are you planning on getting him, or were you able to? He said, no, there's always next year, though.
Always next year. Yeah, I just can't wait till he chases him down and Marino just goes, "Who are you?"
But why?
What? And then from our end, why?
Why?
I mean, sure. What are we going to talk about with Dan? I mean, we could talk with Dan Marino, but I don't know. I feel like there were others. If you want to chase down people, I give you people to chase down. That would be topical. Yeah.
Right.
Amazing.
He's like, well, we had Kurt Warner on. I'm like, Kurt Warner's an analyst.
He's actually talking to NFL quarterbacks every week. He doesn't work for an opposing franchise.
This guy's right. He's a special advisor to the Miami Dolphins. Like, he works in that organization.
Works for the Dolphins. Yeah, he's got a job.
It's
amazing. Amazing.
Anyway.
What a highlight.
Greg had the Lurk and Smirk, which I enjoyed, but this one is incredible. Because, and it happened to be, remember, this is actually a Wednesday night. Bobby Meckling titles the album First Friday Swag, but then he has a track list. Are you ready for this?
Oh, my God. Track list. Go ahead.
Still Lurking, Pineapple Habanero Delight, Who You Got Draft Remix, Bernie, First Friday Swag, the BGSU Bop, The Brown Spotted, Oh Boy, Pure Joy, Let's Go, which actually sounds like a pretty catchy song. I feel like you get a real good hook. Really good. Oh Boy, Pure Joy, Let's Go. I like that.
It's got to be one of those really fast tempo.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can almost hear that. Yep.
Like set to what's that song? The Blitzkrieg Bop.
Yeah, I like that.
Oh boy, Pure Joy. Oh boy, Pure Joy. Yeah, that'd be pretty good.
I like it. Yeah.
Transformative Turkey. Featuring Boski to Bishop, Mailbag, Higher, Lower, Better, or Worse, Living in the CLE. It also needs a Wednesday night taped on there. That'd have to be a track. But
oh, my God, what a job out of Bobby.
Bobby.
That wins. I mean, that is next level.
It is. I kind of like the intro from Hamp the Champ. I like the track list from Bobby. And then I mean, I don't know. There are a lot of
the
pretty,
Dr. Z and the Lurk was pretty good.
Yeah, Dr. Z and the Lurk. Gibby Manili, blame it on the
that.
labrum, and they even included a gif of Milli Vanilli singing "Blame It on the Rain" or lip syncing.
So my
say.
favorite was like when Greg Cosell came in, and he was just standing there, and I said, "Well, Gibby, there's Cosell. Why don't you go get him?" He's, "Oh yeah, I will." And I'm like, "I know you will, but I mean, he's literally 15 feet away. Like you just go get him." So then Cosell walks, and he's just kind of looking for somebody to talk to, and he goes, "Kirk, keep an eye on Cosell."
I went and got Cosell.
You go, he's talking to the Steelers. And he goes, "Yeah, keep an eye on it."
It's unreal. I ended up getting Cosell, obviously.
Cosell. Yeah,
yeah.
of course.
Greg's my guy. I even connected. I'm very pleased about this connection that I made. Cosell, we were talking, and he goes, "Do you think, do you think you could connect me with Joe Thomas? I'd love to talk, learn more about offensive line play. I think."
Oh wow!
And I said,
"Holy!"
I said, "Boy, yeah." And of course, you have to, in a situation like that where you got a luminary like the Hoff, you have to check with them, and be like, "Hey, so and so, in this case, Greg Cosell wanted to reach out, to connect with you. Do you mind if I put you guys together?" And he's like, "Yeah." Hoff was into it. He's like, "Of course I know who Greg Cosell is. Are you kidding me?" Like, "Yeah, I would love that." And so now they're gonna talk shop.
Imagine the football acumen between the Hoff and Cosell.
Off the charts. I told Greg.
I would love to just put like a recorder. I'd just like to hear it.
Yeah, same. I told Cosell about that incredible segment we did where it ended up being like 30 minutes when we were just kind of talking to the Hoff about what did you think about like once the play came in to the time you like got to the ball being snapped, and it was 15 minutes of all the checklists and things that he went through to do his job, and like Cosell was just like, "Oh yeah, inject this into my veins. Like I want all this. Like give me all of it,
every bit of that."
Yeah. So that was pretty.
Oh, that's
gonna
good.
be great. Yeah.
Well, the good news is you're going to get to hear from Mr. Cosell. It is coming up next. Before we do that, though, Rumpke Waste Recycling, family-owned, operated. Whether you join them as a customer or as an employee, they will become part of the family. Visit rumpke.com to learn more.
So I was looking into this Marino thing, because I wanted to make sure I titled him right about the fact that he was, the special assistant or special consultant to the Dolphins, an executive.
Sure. Yep.
I'm wondering if here's an angle for you.
Okay.
I don't know if you knew this. Marino's got 6 kids. 6. Robust number.
I did not know that.
Is there a play that Gibbe's looking to like become number 7?
Could be. Maybe that's his angle.
I mean, he was just a like.
Was so emphatic that what about you idiots? Why the hell wouldn't you just pay for
like
the
you
entire
blew
deal?
it? Yeah, like we blew something
15,
major.
15 Dolphins employees, including Dan Marino. We should just pick up the check so that he can do a 15 minutes on CBD.
Right. Like, how did we not go?
Why didn't we think that?
And offer right? Let's just go. Let's just be willy-nilly with our expenses because we could have Dan Marino on the show.
Get loose with everything. I'd love you going to like approval of expenses. Oh, I see this is an $8,500 bill for a lunch. What was this all about, Nathan? Oh, it's for Dan Marino and the Dolphins'
booked
entire
Marino.
front office.
We
wanted him on CBD.
It would have been cheaper to offer Marino like, hey, we'll give you $500 to come on for 5 minutes.
Oh my God! There were 15 people at that table.
Yeah.
Well, at least 10. I mean, there's no way that bill's less than $1,500.
No, none, zero. They were even having
chance.
having some beverages.
Sure. I'm sure they were having wines and God, who knows?
Who knows?
All right, the great Cosell up next. You're listening to Cleveland Browns Daily on 850 ESPN Cleveland.
Daily, and it is time now for our annual tradition to sit down, have a chat, get smarter with a man who just completed 42 years at NFL Films. You know him from the NFL Matchup Show, the one and only Greg Cosell. And Greg, this is a treat. I look forward to this every single year. And first of all, how nice is it just to be back here in Indy?
It is so great, Nathan. I mean, you know, seeing everybody like yourself, it's just a good time. And when I say good time, I don't mean in terms of like partying or anything. Just reconnecting with people, talking football, which we'll do momentarily. And, you know, I really love the Combine. It's always been my favorite trip. Obviously, there was not one last year. We'll see where it goes, but this has been a lot of fun. Yeah, I've been here less than 24 hours, and it's been great.
It's been a whirlwind, and it is good. It's great to be back with everybody. And let's talk a little bit of football. And, you know, normally you go into these drafts, and for many, many years, you and I would talk about all the quarterbacks. And while the Browns have gotten Baker Mayfield, and we've seen really, really good from him at times in 18 and certainly the second half of 2020, we've also seen some struggles and, of course, battling through the injury a year ago. When you look at this Browns team, what do you see? A team that goes to the playoff 2 years ago, all the hype, don't live up to it for a variety of reasons, and injuries played a big role. But how do you feel about the Browns right now?
Well, I think the focus, of course, is going to be on the quarterback and the offense. You know, I think that this is a team on defense that has some really good pieces. I know there's some free agents. I know Jadeveon Clowney's a free agent. We'll see how that plays out. But I think defensively, they've really built with some good pieces. They've done a nice job at the corner position, which I think you have to have bodies at the corner position in the NFL. I mean, look what they've done in the draft in recent years with Ward, with Greedy Williams, with Newsome. I mean, they've clearly built up that position. They've actually done a nice job at safety as well with Delpit. So, you know, I think that, and I thought the signing of John Johnson was a great signing. He's a really good football player. I remember having a conversation with Brandon Staley about him a few years ago, and Staley just said that guy's phenomenal. So, I mean, he's a really good player. So I think defensively they're a really good team. We don't need to talk about Myles Garrett. We know he's great. But, you know, offensively is where people are probably polarized right now, you know, with what Baker is or isn't and what their offense should look like. I mean, we know Kevin Stefanski has a defined worldview of what he'd ideally like his offense to be, and when it works well, it's really pretty because you get the run game and you get then all the defined play action throws off the run game where the reads are clear, the ball comes out, receivers are open for the most part, particularly against zone because they break down zones really well with their route concepts. But when it's, for whatever reason, when that's not working, when the run game is not setting up the pass game the way they want, they seemingly have struggled, and they certainly did this year. We know on third down they were not very good this year. There's some reasons for that, which we can get into momentarily, but if you cannot win on the money down in the NFL, it's going to be really hard to be a consistent offense.
And it feels like, and we talked about this, you and I, yesterday, not on the air, obviously, just about the philosophical shift in the NFL in the sense that it's never been more important to be able to, in the passing game, be effective in a straight drop-back game when the other team knows you need to pass. That is the marker of offenses that can be consistent and that can win on money downs. We can throw the ball when you know we're going to throw the ball, and that's what seems to separate these consistent good offenses from the ones that struggle. And for the Browns, that's what we've been talking all offseason on Browns Daily. This passing game needs to evolve to the point, and whether that's scheme, whether that's talent, it's probably a combination of both. That's what it is in the NFL, to be able to do that consistently.
Without question. And one thing I was fortunate enough to learn from Bill Walsh years ago is that to be a really good offense, your run game and your pass game have to be able to work effectively independent of one another depending on any given Sunday's game. You know, there are some weeks you can run the ball phenomenally well and everything just looks smooth and fluid like you're doing it in practice. There's other weeks, for whatever reason, the run game isn't as effective and you have to have a drop-back passing game. And you need to be able to do that separate from your run game. And, you know, the Browns, certainly this given year, they struggled. But I will say this, and if you look at the Browns, keep one thing in mind. They did not have a lot on the outside at the wide receiver position. I mean, I don't know where they stand on Peoples-Jones. He shows flashes. I don't know I'm being totally honest. I'm not sure what he can become. I don't know what they think as an organization. You might know, obviously, being in the building more than I do. But the problem you face when you don't have receivers who can work effectively on the outside is the defense can condense your pass game. And that makes all the windows tighter. And it makes it really hard for a quarterback. And this is I'm not trying to defend Baker Mayfield. I don't think he had a particularly strong season overall. I thought he missed too many layups, too many easy throws that were there. But I just think overall, from a tactical, schematic standpoint, it makes it far more difficult when you can't work and stress and challenge the defense with any real meaning outside the numbers. It just makes it harder because, the NFL game, because of the hash marks different than the college game, you have to make throws in the middle of the field somewhere along the line. And if the defense really kind of knows that and can squeeze the middle of the field, it makes it a lot harder.
It does, and you're right about that, which is one of the things when you watch, like, for example, the 49ers, is the fact that they really only throw the ball to the middle field and are able to do it and got to the NFC Championship game is kind of crazy.
Right.
But you're right, you need to stress people on the outside. This is a great wide receiver draft, and I'm sure we'll get to that at some point. And the Browns, I think, have an opportunity to add somebody at pick number 13 that can help Baker Mayfield do that. But I want to go
be a wide receiver at 13. It all depends on who they like. Who I like, it might be totally different from who they like.
Who do you like?
Well, I'm not good with lists because receivers are so different. But I really like Treylon Burks from Arkansas. I mean, he's 6'3", 225. He's got that premium size speed profile. He ran away from the Alabama defense on a long touchdown, and those guys are 5-star recruits and they can run. I really like Garrett Wilson a lot. He very much reminds me of Stephon Diggs. I think they're just stylistically very similar. I don't know when he'll be ready, but I think Jamison Williams is a fascinating prospect. He's an impact receiver who's a game changer. I think he changes the way defenses have to play, and I think that's what you're looking for, because you're looking for the defense. Look, you mentioned what offenses want: explosive plays. That's the consensus. You speak to so many offensive coaches now, and the first thing they say, if you say, what do you want out of your offense? They say explosive plays. So what is the defense doing? They don't want to give up explosive plays. So, someone like Jamison Williams, he is a flat-out vertical guy. I think he's a little more than that, but he certainly is a game changer. So, those three would probably be guys I'd like. I tell you a receiver I love, and I think he'll be polarizing is not the right word because I think people will really like him. They just have to decide about his size. I love Jahan Dotson from Penn State, but he's 184 pounds, so you've got to decide what he is. I mean, he's actually the same size as Deontay Johnson, and I think that he catches the ball better than Deontay Johnson. So I really like Jahan Dotson as well.
Yeah, there are going to be a lot of options there to certainly improve the weaponry. But getting back to Baker, second half of 2020, 20 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, a lot of it in the drop-back game. It wasn't all boots and rollouts,
right.
And so it was there. When you look at him, how do we get back to that play?
That's a really hard question because I'm not there every day. But, I think if you just look at Baker Mayfield and watch tape and talk to coaches, they'll tell you he throws the ball really well, which he does. He's got a really good arm. I can't speak to how he learns the game. I can't speak to what he takes in, what he doesn't take in. That I can't speak to. But we know he can perform at a reasonably high level in this league. We're not going to compare him to Josh Allen. That's obviously not the case. But you can line up and win with Baker Mayfield. The question becomes, is he the kind of quarterback that at his core, even though he throws it really well, is he at his core an executor and a ball distributor? And I would say he's more like that, which means those guys need weapons. And if you don't give them weapons, just like we spoke a moment ago, it becomes too hard. Yep. It just becomes too hard. So like I said, this is not a defense of Baker Mayfield. The tape from a year ago, as you well know, will tell you that he did not have a great year. But it just became too hard. And, so I don't know how he goes through a game. Some quarterbacks can, play each play as a totally individual play, and no matter what happened on the previous play, it doesn't matter. I don't know how he thinks through a game as the game's being played. Right. I can't speak to that. But the bottom line is he's talented enough as a thrower that if you have the right people around him, and clearly they have a good O-line, then he can be a very effective executor and ball distributor.
And then I think that goes to what we talked about earlier. Again, getting somebody on the outside who can separate versus man-to-man coverage, because we saw teams start to play a ton of man against us and make it very difficult.
Right, because they don't have that guy. And also the speed element.
Yep.
Because if you don't have the speed element, then, or let's put it this way, when you do have a speed element, all of a sudden the way teams deploy their safeties on defense changes.
Well, it gives you pre-snap information because they're worried. Exactly.
That's exactly what you're looking for. You know, the great quarterbacks in this league, for any number of reasons, win before the ball snapped because of pre-snap information. You know, and you get pre-snap information many ways based on the use of your personnel, your receiver distribution, your receiver location. You know, a lot of teams are big believers now in having a tight end that can be that boundary X. You learn a lot when your tight end is the single receiver to the boundary. That gives you a lot of information as to what the defense is playing. So you're trying to give your quarterback as much pre-snap information as possible. Or the flip side to that is you're trying to force the defense into its default defense. And that's why a lot of teams use a lot of motion, because they know that that causes problems for communication and adjustment. So what you end up getting the defense doing is playing one or two defenses that you know are what we call their default defenses, but that gives you information. So that's what you're trying to do.
Yes, and I think as we talked about, you know, from a philosophy standpoint and just kind of the change, and you think about being in the AFC in a conference that's going to have Mahomes, Josh Allen, Burrow, Herbert, Trevor Lawrence is still, even though his rookie year was not great, but now he's there with Doug Peterson. There are some great quarterbacks, and I'll put those top four. Lamar Jackson was an MVP a few years ago, but does it very differently than the other four I mentioned. This is going to be a conference where you're going to have to be able to score the football and score 30 at times.
And different people have different worldviews. There's no correct answer. I personally am not a believer in shortening the game and limiting possessions. I think that sounds good. Right. And are there times you can do that? But my point would be, I don't think you go play Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes that way. Like, they're going to score. Like, I don't think your approach, and now I'm talking philosophically. I know every Sunday is different, but I think every Sunday is different. But the bottom line to me is that you can't go into games thinking you're going to win 1916. Yeah.
You are exactly right, Greg. This is such a pleasure and such a treat. If you could leave us with one kind of final thought, what's one thing that you hope to see as a Browns fan early in this next season that will tell you that the Browns are on the right path with this passing game?
Are you assuming I'm a Browns fan?
Those ones listening, to the Browns fans listening.
Right. I'm very curious to see what Kevin does offensively. You know, if there's tweaks made to his overall approach. Look, this approach can work. We know it can work. But I think you have to tweak it because you have to be able to function in those games when it doesn't work.
Exactly right. Hopefully we see that ball going through the air nicely, and it's easy because going on 14 play drives, not easy in the national.
Back in 20.
Those chunk plays.
No, not easy, and to me, not the way you can build your offense as your foundational approach.
Greg Cosell, legend. What a treat. Coming to the Combine to see you is really, that's number one on our list. So it's always a pleasure to sit down and get smarter about football talking to you.
Thanks, Nathan. Appreciate it.
You're up.
That's beautiful. So much more to come. You listen to Cleveland Browns Daily on 850 ESPN Cleveland. Well, the weather is cold outside. A nice hot bath or shower is going to feel amazing. Why not transform your bathroom into a custom bath? It'll feel like a spa. Let the Bath Authority make it a reality for you at a fraction of the cost of the competitors. The Bath Authority is Cleveland's premier bath and shower remodeler, expert factory-trained installers. Largest selection of bath projects are all made in the United States. Change your bathroom from outdated to outstanding. Acrylic tubs that insulate and keep the heat in. Tub-to-shower conversions. Superior products. With expert installers. Give them a call now. You get $500 off your next custom bath or shower remodel. Tell them Beau sent you. The number is 216-220-8399, or go to thebathauthority.com. That's $500 off. 216-220-8399, or go to thebathauthority.com. And so now the Combine is about to be behind us. It's behind you and I, and now the business of the NFL will pick up. You will start to see these buyouts. You will start to see some trades all in advance of the new league year in a couple of weeks.
Right, which is the crazy part about it is that, the tampering period begins, or the legal tampering period, which is one of the great oxymorons the NFL's concocted in their time, begins on a week from Monday.
Right.
And then that Wednesday, that first Friday, that's at 4 o'clock. That's when the new league year starts, and all these signings can become official and trades can become official. So the next 10 days, next 12 days, are going to be
2 minutes
rocking. I mean, there's going to be a lot going down. And as I said on the Amari Cooper front, they mentioned that he's going to get cut, and now they're already trying to see, okay, who would be willing to trade for him? Who wants to lock them in onto their team? So it's a pretty incredible – that's going to be an incredible time with a lot of change. And I think that's what a lot of people saw – or expect to see, and when talking in Indy, that there will be more cuts, more names that you don't know are currently free agents will be free agents, and there's going to be a lot going on.
Yeah, and I think
1 minute.
the other thing to watch in terms of with the receivers is, these rookies have proven to be able to come in and be good right away. Like, is this market going to be as robust for the player as it used to be? My hunch is maybe not. Because you feel like you can get these guys to come in and make an impact because the situations are so similar.
Yep.
The what they're being asked to do is so similar, and they're ready to go. So I don't know if this free agent market will be quite as robust because of how much talent comes into the position every year in the league through the draft.
You're right. It feels like it's only there's going to be just more and more, right? It's just the trends. That's the way that it's all going. So fun. I'm very excited about this. This is fun stuff.
Enjoy your weekend. It's supposed to be in the mid to high 60s, my friend. Then, of course, snow advisory on Monday, because why not?
Why not?
But let's not worry about that. Let's worry about the warmth.
Outrageous.
And a nice, I know it, a nice weekend, though, perhaps to get us through it. Good stuff, brother, all week long. The next level is coming up next. We're back on Monday. Cleveland Browns Daily, 850 ESPN Cleveland.